Hello everyone, hope you are doing well. So today we are going to conclude the chapter of audit risk, and for concluding it we are going to do a practice question of audit risk. So the practice question we are going to do is Abraham's. It is from December 2011 attempt, but a very comprehensive question of audit risk. Let's see. Abraham's Co. develops, manufactures and sells a range of pharmaceutical and has a wide customer base across Europe and Asia. You are the audit manager of Nate & Co. So Nate & Co is the audit firm and Abraham's Co is the audit client. And you are planning the audit of Abraham's Co, whose financial year end is 31st January. You attended a planning meeting with the finance director and audit engagement partner and are now reviewing the meeting notes in order to produce the audit strategy and audit plan. What is audit strategy and audit plan? We'll be discussing it in the next chapter. This is part of audit planning, or the documents which are prepared in the audit planning are called as audit strategy and audit plan, but we'll be discussing them in detail in the next chapter. Revenue for the year is forecast at $25 million. So it means it is giving us a forecast revenue because the year has not yet ended, so the exact revenue is not known. So forecast revenue is given in the question. So this first paragraph, and generally in most of the cases, first paragraphs is the introduction about the company. In question of audit risk, the first paragraph is in most of the cases just the introduction about the company, the client which is being audited. Okay. Before starting the scenario, let's see what is the requirement of the question. Always remember, first you should read the paragraph which gives you information about the nature of the client which is going to be audited, and then before starting the scenario you should understand what is the requirement of the question so that you can identify the required data from the question. So what is required from the question? Explain the component of audit risk, and for each component state an example of factor which can result in the increase of audit risk. This is totally a knowledge-based requirement. Here you're going to write the definition of audit risk. Rather, you're not even required to give the definition of audit risk because it is not requiring you to explain what is audit risk. It wants you to explain the components of audit risk. And then for each component, you are required to give one example which would cause that component of audit risk. Now, if you remember, there are 3 components of audit risk and total marks for this requirement are 6. It means 1 mark is for defining each component of audit risk and 1 mark is for giving an example. So 1 mark per component of audit risk, it will make 3 marks. When you will define each component of the audit risk briefly, it will make 1 mark for each component. So 3 marks in total because there are 3 components of the audit risk, and then you have to give an example of each component. When you will give 1 example of each component, you will get 3 more marks, and this will make 6 marks. Now let's recall what are the components of the audit risk. If you remember, I explained that these are the 3 components of audit risk: inherent risk, control risk, and detection risk. Audit risk is a known nothing. It is made up of these 3 components. So you will briefly explain that inherent risk is the risk due to the nature of the organization and its operation. Then you can give 1 example. For example, you can give this example: if a company operates in highly regulated industry, there is risk of non-compliance, which will result in fine, penalties, and provisions, which might not be correctly shown in the financial statements. Then you will explain what is control risk. It is the risk that the company internal controls were ineffective in preventing, detecting error or fraudulent manipulation in the financial statements. And then you will give 1 example: poorly designed and implemented internal controls. Likewise, you will define what is the detection risk. You tell it is a risk that audit procedures were unable to detect material errors or manipulations in the financial statements. And you will give 1 example. For example, detection risk is high when deadline is short. Or the other example could be when the auditor is auditing the client for the first time. So with this, we are done with the part A. of the question requirement. Now let's see the other requirement. What does the other requirement say? Using the information provided, describe 5 audit risks. You have to identify 5 audit risks from the scenario and explain the auditor's response to each risk in planning the audit of Abraham's company. So it is clearly written that you need to identify 5 risks from the scenario or the information given, and then for each risk you have to give a solution, or you have to explain how auditor would respond to that risk. Okay, and so the total marks for this requirement are 10. 1 mark for each audit risk and 1 mark for each response against the identified risk. Now we will start reading the scenario, and with the scenario, whenever we identify audit risk, we will discuss. Okay, so it says, during the year, the company has spent 22 million on developing several products. Okay, 2.2 million on developing several products. Some of these are in the early stage of development, while others are nearing completion. Out of the total products which are being developed, only some are near completion, while some are at early stage of development. Okay. The finance director has confirmed that all products are likely to be successful, so he is intending to capitalize full 22 million. Now, risk lies here. Finance director is planning to capitalize the full amount of 2.2 million. Whereas some products are still in the early stage of development. Those products which are in the early stage of development might not get developed. So it is too early for them to, get capitalized. The development cost associated to them, if it is capitalized at this point in time, this is too early. But the finance director is very much determined to capitalize this. So what is the audit risk due to this particular issue? Let's see. Okay, always remember that the answer of audit risk question should be in a tabular form. One table should contain audit risk and the other table should contain the auditor's responses. So that for each response you can give, for each risk you can give a response just parallel to that. Okay, and even it is specified in the requirement if you see. Look at this. Note, prepare your answer using 2 columns headed audit risk and auditor's responses respectively. Even if it is not mentioned, always keep in mind, always remember, for the question of audit risk, you will make a table. One table will be, including audit risk, and the other table will be including auditor's responses. So that just in front of the audit risk, you write the auditor's response. Okay, now let's see the information that we have extracted from the question. What does it require us from, how do we identify audit risk out of it? So, management of Abrahams will capitalize $2.2 million on developing several new products. Whereas some part of it might not meet the capitalization criteria of IAS 38. Now, it is the main thing. The standard which relates to development costs, research and development cost, is IAS 38. And IAS 38 has a clear criteria for capitalizing the development cost. Okay? Whereas those products which are in the early stage of development might not meet the criteria set out and laid down by IAS 38. As a result of that, what will happen? Finance director is determined to capitalize the full amount of 2.2 million. What will happen? Some of those products which do not meet the criteria of development, but even then the cost of development associated them is being capitalized. It will cause overstatement of intangible assets. And thus the total assets would be overstated. And on the other hand, expense would be understated. Because if some of these development costs should have been expensed, and these are not expensed out, these are capitalized, as a result of this, expense would be understated. Alright? Causing overstatement of asset could understate expense. One more thing. if you see, the total revenue of the company is 2.5 million, whereas the total development cost is 2.2 million. If we calculate the exact amount, if we look at the exact amount that how much percentage of our research and development cost makes of the total revenue, then just give me a second, I will calculate and then I'll get back to you. So 2.2 divided by 25. Okay. So it means that the development cost of 2.2 million, which the finance director is considering to capitalize, is 8.8 million of the total revenue. Total revenue is 25 million. And the total development cost which the finance director is considering to capitalize is 2.2 million. 2.2 million is 8.8% of the revenue. If you remember, for revenue, I told you that anything which is 0.5% to 1% of the total revenue is considered to be material. Whereas this amount is how much? 8.8% of the total revenue. It means it is extremely significant and material amount. If this entire amount is being capitalized, then this is going to cause overstatement of assets within material amount. All right. Now let's see what is going to be the response of the auditor against this risk. An analysis showing development costs in relation to each product should be obtained and reviewed. In other words, we will obtain a breakdown of the development cost product wise, and then what will we do? Testing should be carried out to ensure the technical and commercial feasibility of each product, because as per the requirement of IS 38, only that development cost should be capitalized which is against the products that can be technically and commercially feasible and that are going to be a successful ones and that can be marketed for sales in the market. Okay, so this is going to be the response of the auditor against this risk. Now let's come on the other risk. Once product have been completed the development stage, Ibrahim goes begin manufacturing them. Okay, at the year end it is anticipated that there will be significant level of work in progress. Now this is something again that we need to identify as a audit risk. At the end of the year, the company is going to have a significant level of work in progress. Remember, work in progress, what is it? Work in progress is a accounting estimate. It's an accounting estimate because work in progress depends upon the stage of completion. Okay, and the stage of completion of the work in progress is dependent upon management assumptions and estimations. Management estimates that how much percentage of work is complete, and according to the percentage of completion, work in progress is valued. Now management might intentionally or unintentionally assess the wrong percentage of completion, and if wrong percentage of completion is assessed, work in progress could be over or understated. Now let's see how will we write it in the answer. At the year end, it is anticipated that there will be significant level of work in progress likely to constitute a material balance. Okay, we are assuming that the balance or the amount of the work in progress is going to be material, although no amount is given. The pharmaceutical production process is likely to be complex. Now, if you remember, what is the company manufacturing? Range of pharmaceuticals. Okay, so here it is a problem. The pharmaceutical production process is likely to be complex. An audit team may not have sufficiently qualified staff to assess the quantity of the value in work in progress. Therefore, they may be unable to gain sufficient evidence over a material area. Now, this is a problem that, the work in progress in a pharmaceutical company cannot be verified by the auditors because the work in progress of a pharmaceutical company is going to be very, technical in nature. Auditors are not the pharmacists. Therefore, they will not be able to assess whether the management has correctly determined the level of work in progress and whether the management has correctly assessed the stage of completion behind the work in progress or not. So it would be difficult for auditor to gain sufficient appropriate audit evidence in this area. So how is auditor going to respond to this risk? Auditor should consider to approach an independent expert to expert valuer, sorry. Okay. So I repeat, auditors should consider to approach an independent expert valuer having expertise to value the work in progress of pharmaceutical company. It is very much possible that there are certain areas where auditors' skills and knowledge is limited. Like in this situation, it is clear that auditor isn't a pharmacist. Therefore, it is not possible for him to assess whether the stage of completion associated with the work in progress is correctly determined by the management or not. So in such areas where auditor doesn't have the relevant skill, auditing standards allow auditor to approach an independent expert of that area who can help auditor in obtaining sufficient and appropriate audit evidence. So in this case, auditor would approach an independent expert value who has the expertise to verify whether the value of the work in progress correctly determined by the client. Okay. Now, next risk. In addition, the company uses a standard costing method to value inventory. The standard costs are set when product is first manufactured and not usually updated. Now, this is the third risk. Remember, standard costing method is a method that is allowed for inventory valuation by IS2. IS2 is the accounting standard related to inventory. IS2 allows that standard costing method can be used for inventory valuation, but it has a condition. Number one, only those companies can use standard costing rather than actual cost for inventory valuation where there is a lot of fluctuation in purchase price of the raw material. So number one, only those companies can use standard costing for valuing their inventory rather than the actual cost where the purchase price of the raw material is very much fluctuating. Number two, standard cost should not be very much different from the actual market purchase price. But here what happens? Standard cost was set when product is first manufactured and not usually updated. Because the standard cost is not usually updated, as a result, what will happen? Standard cost is going to be very much different from the actual cost of inventory or actual cost of material that is available in the market. So let's see. How is it a deficiency? Abraham Co. uses standard costing to value inventory. And under IS2 inventories, IS2, the name of that standard is inventories. Okay. The standard allows the standard cost method may be used. Okay, I repeat. Abraham Co. uses standard costing to value inventory, and under IS2 inventories, the standard cost method may be used. But it should not be very different from the actual cost, as I've already explained. However, standard costs have not been updated since the product was first manufactured. In this client, standard cost is not usually updated. Okay, leading to a risk that the standard cost is out of date. If they are, it could mean inventory is over or undervalued in the financial statement. So this is going to be the ultimate impact of this risk on the financial statements. Now let's see how auditor is going to respond to this. Standard cost used for inventory valuation should be compared to the actual cost. And from where we can verify the actual cost? The recent purchase invoices. Ideally, there shouldn't be a lot of difference or a lot of variance in the standard cost which is being used for inventory valuation and the actual cost. And from where the auditor is verifying the actual cost? The recent purchase invoices of the raw material. Okay, for an appropriate sample of inventory item. So what will auditor do? He will select an appropriate sample of inventory item, and auditor will review their actual cost by reviewing the purchase invoices, and then he will compare the actual cost with the standard cost to see whether there's a lot of difference between them or whether they are almost the same. Any significant variation should be discussed with management. If there is significant variation between the standard cost and the actual cost, this should be discussed with the management, and management should be advised to revise the standard cost and thus the inventory valuation accordingly. Next, the next risk which appears in the given information is, in order to fulfill customer orders promptly, Abraham Company has a warehouse of finished goods located across Europe and Asia. Approximately 1/3 of these third-party warehouse where Abraham Co. just rent space. Although I think I haven't mentioned or included this in the solution, but the risk associated to this information is that lot of warehouses of the company are just rented. Okay. Now the risk could be that the management might be including those rented warehouses as owned assets. If it is the situation, then what will happen? The non-current assets will be overstated. Okay. And the response to this risk would be that auditor would review the ownership documents of all the warehouses which are recorded as the owned assets. And those warehouses for which there isn't any ownership document, like registration document, it means that warehouse is not owned, and that should not be included in the owned assets of the company. That should be removed from the owned assets of the company. All right. Now look at the next risk. In September, a new accounting package was introduced. This bespoke system developed by the IT manager. Bespoke means that the system was prepared according to the nature and the requirements of the company. And who developed it? IT manager of the company made this new accounting software or accounting package. The old and new package were not run in parallel, as it was felt that this would be too onerous for the accounting team. 2 months after the system changeover, the IT manager left the company and the new manager has been recruited but not due to start his work until January. Now, 2 months after the new system was developed by the IT manager, he left the company, and after he leaves the company till now, no manager has started working in his place. Although a manager has been appointed, but he has not yet started his work at the company. Moreover, old and new package were not run in parallel. Okay. Now let's discuss what is the risk associated with this information. In September, a new accounting package was introduced. The fact that the two systems were not run in parallel increases the risk that errors and omissions occur during the changeover. Remember, whenever a new system is implemented, information is transferred from the old system to the new system. Okay. Some of the information might get omitted while the information was transferred from the old system to the new system, and moreover, during the process of the transfer, errors could also occur. So ideally, whenever a new system is implemented, for the first few months at least, both the systems should run in parallel, so that if there is any omission or error, it could be, identified from the old system. But in this case, it was not carried out like this. In this case, what happened? Two systems were not run in parallel. So obviously it increases the risk of omission and error during the changeover. And even if this risk occurred, it would be, difficult to make the corrections. So what is going to be the auditor's response to this? The new system will need to be fully documented by the audit team, including the relevant controls. Auditor needs to understand how is the new system operating, and then auditor has to document it. Testing should be performed to ensure that closing data on the old system was correctly transferred as the opening data of the new system. Ideally, the closing data of the old system should become the opening data of the new system. All right. And the auditors need to do testing to make sure that this is the case. Now, there is another risk associated to the same information, and what is it? The IT manager who developed the bespoke system left the company 2 months after the changeover, and his replacement is not due to start until just before the year end. This is the information we took from the scenario. Without an IT manager support, in the interim, errors may occur and may not be picked up due to the lack of knowledge and experience of the system. Now, this is the problem. The person who developed a special software, he left, and nobody, replaced him. IT team is already not aware of how to use the new system, and they are not even being supervised by some senior. So because they were not supervised by some senior, no IT manager was there to guide them. Therefore, the risk of error because of lack of knowledge and lack of experience by the IT team would increase. Definitely, whenever something new is implemented, the team should be given proper guidelines, training in order to make sure that they, use and implement the new system correctly. But this is not the case here. Okay, so this increases the risk of error in the, recording of transactions under the new system. So let's see how auditor would respond to this risk. The audit team will need to ascertain from the finance director how the risk of misstatement is being mitigated. He will inquire the finance director what steps did he take to make sure that the risk of material misstatement was mitigated. During the audit, the audit team should remain alert throughout the audit for evidence of error. Because there is more risk of error, the audit team should be more vigilant to identify and pick up the errors. Now, the next risk that is given in the information or the scenario is, in order to fund the development of new products, Abraham's company has restructured its finance and raised $1 million through issuing share at premium and $2.5 million through a long-term loan. There are bank covenants attached to the loan, and the main one relating to minimum level of assets. If these covenants are breached, then the loan becomes immediately repayable. Now see, there are 2-3 risks associated with it. Number one, new loan of 2.5 million is taken. Whenever a company gets a long-term loan needs to be classified under current and non-current liability. That part of the loan which is repayable within 1 year should be recorded under a current liability, and that part of the loan which is repayable after a year should be recorded as a non-current liability. So one risk is this. Number two, with long-term loan, generally bank covenants are attached. What are the covenants? Covenants are the restrictions. And with this loan, the main covenant relates to the minimum level of assets, because the bank has attached the covenant of minimum level of asset. What does it mean? That if the level of asset falls below the minimum requirement, then what will happen? Loan becomes immediately repayable. Look at this. If the covenant are breached, and when the covenant will be breached, when the total asset falls below a minimum level, the loan becomes immediately repayable. Now, this is a pressure upon the management, due to which management might overstate the total assets, so that the breach is not visible to the bank, and the bank doesn't require the repayment of the entire loan. So this is a clear, risk here. So let's see. 2.5 million long-term loan has been raised during the year. There is a risk that the loan might not be properly classified between current and non-current liability. As I've already explained, the part of the loan which is repayable after 1 year should be classified as a non-current liability, and which is repayable within a year should be classified as a current liability. But there could be a risk of wrong classification. What should be the auditor's response to this? Disclosure related to the loan finance should be reviewed and compared with the loan agreement. So loan agreement is the document which gives us the information about which amount is payable within the 1 year and which amount is payable after 1 year. So we should compare the amounts disclosed under the heading of current and non-current liability with the loan agreement to make sure that they are correctly classified. Then the second risk associated to this is the loan has covenant attached to it. If these are breached, then the loan would be repayable straight away and would need to be classified as a current liability. Obviously, if the loan has to be repaid immediately, it will be classified as a current liability, potentially resulting in net current liability position on the statement of financial position. If the company did not have sufficient cash available to repay the loan balance, the going concern status of the company could be threatened. Definitely. What will happen? If the company doesn't have enough money, enough cash to repay the loan, then they will have to sell off their assets to arrange the money for paying back the loan. As a result of this, the company will not be going concern. Okay. Now, what will be the auditor's response to this? Review the loan agreement to identify the loan covenant, to identify what exactly the loan covenant is, and assess whether there is any breach which might require the entire loan to be classified as a current liability. Okay, so this was the response of the auditor related to this risk. Lastly, the company has a policy of revaluing land and building. And finance director has announced that all land and building will be revalued as at year end. You know that IAS 16 allows that the company can revalue its land and building if the company thinks that the value of the land or building has appreciated, and the value which is recorded in the financial statement is understated. So the standard gives the option of revaluing the land and building. This year, finance director has announced that he will be revaluing all the land and building. He might be doing this with an intention of overstating the total assets, because we have already discussed that the total asset is a loan covenant. Now let's discuss. The finance director has announced that all land and building will be revalued as the year end. If revaluation is not correctly done, it could cause over or understatement of assets. Both the possibilities exist. Asset could overstate or understate. But in this case, there is more likelihood of overstatement. Now, what is going to be the response to this risk? Review the reasonableness of the valuation and assess the completeness, experience, and independence of the individual perform the valuation. Definitely, an independent valuer will be performing the valuation. First thing that the auditor need to assess is whether the person who performed the valuation was competent, experienced, and independent to do the valuation. And then auditor would assess whether the work done by him, the revaluation done by him was reasonable or not. Now comes the final risk. The reporting timetable of audit completion of Abraham company is quite short, and the finance director would like to report results even earlier this year. So this is going to create a clear detection risk for auditors. Already the deadline for completing audit for Abraham companies in the last years was short. But this year the finance director wants it even quicker. So what will happen? The already short reporting timetable for Abraham company is likely to be reduced. This could increase detection risk because there is a pressure on the team to obtain sufficient and appropriate evidence in a shorter time scale. When more work is to be done in short time scale, obviously risk of leaving errors and misstatements undetected increases. So how is auditor going to respond to this? If it is not realistically possible to perform all the required work at a final audit, then an interim audit should take place in late December, early January to reduce the work to be done at the final audit. Now, we'll be discussing what the interim audit is in the next chapter. But briefly, I'll tell you, interim audit is generally performed before the year end. And the purpose of interim audit is to reduce the workload at, the completion of the year end, so that the deadlines, short deadlines can be easily achieved without compromising the quality of work. So this was all about the question of audit risk. I would recommend you to practice more and more questions of audit risk to, increase your competency in this area of audit, because this is a very important topic from exam point of view. Very examinable topics. So you should focus a lot on this, and particularly on practicing this area. Okay, then bye for today.